Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where I just realized I forgot to start up the music. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so let's get on back over here. And what do we need to do next? Well, let's just go through the tutorial here and find out real quick what we need to implement next. So there's our name. We've named our company, and we should then decide how to purchase land. So we should find a piece of land, blah blah blah, surveying land, allowing us to zoom in. The map has now zoomed in. Additional hexes are now viewable. Select a biome hex to continue. Okay, so we can then go on down here. And purchasing land is completely empty right now. Okay. Well, that's where we start. So let's go into our prefabs here, into our tutorial. So this is currently just purchasing land. So, in order to purchase land, you must first be in land purchasing mode. To do this, okay, how do I want to say this? After clicking next, I suppose, we're going to redo all of this eventually, probably, but for right now, this will do. So after clicking next, click the land... What did I call it? Let's find out. I called it land management. Okay. Click the land management button on the toolbar. Okay, and so the question then is, do we wait for land management to be clicked? Probably not. After clicking next, click the land management button in the toolbar and select buy land. Do this. Actually, we'll just leave it right there. So we are going to pause on next, and on begin pause, as I once again go in and turn down the Stellaris music ever so slightly. But in the on begin pause, we're going to need to go ahead and implement one of those, and for that, we need none of these scripts. We need the advisor object. So let's go ahead and implement public virtual void unpause on entering land purchase mode. Oops, that was the wrong button. I hit P instead of curly brace. There we go. Okay. So as usual, if method equals null, do setup method equals unpause on entering land purchase mode. Should unpause equals false, else method equals null. Okay. So when we are up here, we'll go ahead and put in else if method equals unpause on entering land purchase mode. If, let's see, does Hex Manager have a reference to the business? No. Okay, we're going to need a reference to the business here, which is going to be a little awkward because of this whole thing. That said, we could give one to the Hex Manager, and it maybe wouldn't be the worst idea. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm going to do hide in inspector, public business, and then in the awake, we're just going to business equals game object dot find object of, nope, find object of type business. Okay. So now it knows about it, and it can tell the advisor object. So if hex manager.business.interaction mode equals interaction mode dot byland, there we go, then should unpause equals true. Perfect. So now we should be in a position where if we run, oh, we need to put it into the on begin pause there. Okay, itself, advisor script element, unpause on entering land purchase mode. Perfect. Okay, so now it should work when we enter land purchase mode, since we did already implement changing the mode when we press the button. Really should maybe offload the biome generation. It takes a fair amount of time. Okay, next, next, so we go into land management by land. Now technically there's nothing after it, so I think it worked, but it didn't pop anything else up because we don't have another prefab in the tutorial after it. So 006 here would continue, would still be purchasing land, and it would say something along the lines of, you are now in buy land interaction mode. Okay, this is where it starts to get a little complicated, because we're going to have to implement multiple things to make this really work. But that's okay. So we're now in buy land interaction mode, and at this point, left clicking on a building, actually I'm going to capitalize that, building hex, will allow you to purchase a piece of land. After clicking next, try this. Okay. So, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to implement. One, we are going to have to implement, or we're going to have to turn back on our tooltip. So there's that. See, the tooltip will be behind virtually everything. I want the advisor window to be in front of everything. Absolutely. And then I want the tooltip to be in front of everything. Period? Yeah, period. Okay. So, we've turned the tooltip back on, and we're going to need to populate the tooltip based on what mode we're in. So, tooltip title, tooltip content, The offset on the tooltip appears to have changed. Interesting. Let's take a quick look at that. Pivot is supposed to be 0, 1. It's anchored in the bottom left. Anchor it in the top left instead. Okay, the anchor is here. Our mouse offset is here. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and run this and see. I don't think that fixed anything. I do want it to be down over here rather than, like, I want it to be here rather than here, if that makes any sense, based on the tooltip position. Now it just isn't anywhere. Okay. I guess that makes some degree of sense. I have forgotten exactly why this is not where I want it to be. It's been a bit. But the tooltip is going to have to be changeable based on what the interaction mode is. So we're going to have to implement some stuff in our tooltipable object. Or rather just tooltip object. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and pause this. Tooltip will be up here right now. I mean, I guess I could just increase this to be like 125 somehow. Yeah, that's too much. That moved it up way too much. Let's try negative 100. That's more like it. Maybe like negative 110? Yeah, I like that. We'll have it just be at negative 110. So, I mean, we're just changing the offset here a little bit to fix that. Okay. So, this is probably going to have to change a bit. Because we need the text of the tooltip to change based on the interaction mode that we are in, which of course is one of these. So, construction, demolition definitely only work on the building level. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this. I mean, most of these will only work on the building level. So, for example, the biome hexes here would mostly just indicate what biome they are, what routes would run through it, potentially. For right now, I think we'll only implement it for the construction, or rather, not for the construction, for the building hexes. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to the building hex, right here. Excellent. We can go ahead and get rid of these things that are commented out now. Like so. And this does have a reference to the business, so that's perfect. Okay. So, let's think here. How do I want to actually do this? Well, there are a couple of things. First, public, and this is going to be an integer, public integer purchase cost equals, and we'll have a base purchase cost be something around $2,000, I think. Maybe. Let's see, what's our starting money? This is at 0, but I think we have a starting amount. Current funds, 2,500. Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty viable. So, in the on mouse over, let's go ahead and set our tooltip. Does this know about a tooltipable object, or rather just a tooltip object? I don't think it does. Do these have a tooltip object in them? They actually don't. Okay, we should add one. So add component, tooltip object. Okay. There we go. These biome hexes should have a tooltip object as well, if they do not. They actually do already. Perfect. And I'm just going to call this biome hex. This is a generic biome hex. I'm actually going to do it this way. Biome hex. We haven't set up tooltips for it yet. Okay. Let's go into our prefabs. And in here, go into our biome hex. Or rather, into our base hex. And let's check here to see if this has a tooltip object in it. It does indeed. So we're going to call this world hex. This is a generic world hex. We haven't set up tooltips for it yet. And the same thing down for the building hexes. We're going to have this be building hex. This is a generic building hex. We haven't set up tooltips for it yet. Okay. There we go. So now we'll have tooltips for all of them, but they're not going to be particularly unique. So we're just going to do a quick update tooltips in onMouseOver. And then we're going to do public void update tooltips. We're going to have to make sure that we grab our tooltip object. Private tooltip object equal, or rather, I'm just going to call this TTO. And then TTO equals get component tooltip object, or rather tooltip object, not tooltip. Okay, so that'll just automatically grab it when the hex is created, or rather when it's woken up. And then we should be able to update our tooltips. So, what do we want this tooltip to read? Well, first off, we want to know what number we are. So let's go ahead and put in a public int xIndex, and this is very simply going to be xIndex equals, and this will be in the subhex manager dot subhexes dot index of, and yeah, it'll be this. So index of this, and that'll just get us a bit of a unique modifier. And then the question is, do we have a good way to get the enum in text form? I'm looking it up right now. That returns the value. Yeah, that's... Oh, okay. So there's multiple ways that we can do this, actually. So we can do TTO dot tooltip title equals, and this is going to be something along the lines of let's see here. We need to get the world hex list of buildings. So hex manager. Wait, we don't have a... Is it just manager? Yeah, it's just manager. So manager.selected world hex dot, and then from here we need to go to our... This is a world hex. So in the world hex, we will need to grab our biome hexes, our selected biome hex. I'm not sure how we're going to get our selected biome hex quite yet. Dot buildings, and this will be hex index. This is of a list of buildings, and then I think we can just simply toString that. According to what I'm reading here, this should work fine. It may or may not work. Get name would work, theoretically. So it would be something along the lines of system.enum.getName, and then we'd pass in our enum type and then our object value. Let's delete the get to the toString because I'm reading there are reports of issues with it, and this would then be buildings, or rather just building. System.type enum type. What do you mean building is a type which is not valid in the given context? Is it just because we don't have an index here? No. Oh, I bet we need a type of, because we need to get this over to a type. Yeah, that did the trick. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to figure out what biome hex we're in. So this would probably be something along the lines of, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this down onto a different line. So something along the lines of, we've got a selected biome hex, right? When we click on this, submanager.subhexes.index of this. We don't actually do that. We should. Okay, let's head into the hex manager. And next to our selected world hex, we do have a selected subhex. We just don't assign it? Oh, we do. Right here. What am I talking about? Wow, I'm a little out of it, apparently. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So, in our building hex, then, it should just be biome hexes, and then something along the lines of, would this be an index of? Because it's currently storing a biome hex. What if selected subhex we stored this index instead? Or we could just grab it like this. So it would be like manager dot, or rather subhex manager, which I don't think we actually have a reference to. We don't. Okay, manager dot selected subhex is here. So just dot manager dot subhexes dot index of selected subhex would be the way we could get there. Hex manager does not have that. Because this is the subhex manager. Right. And instead of index of this, of course, it would be manager.selected subhex. I mean, we could do something really stupid like selected subhex, or rather manager.selected subhex.manager, or rather .submanager. Like that. Like, that would actually work. Kind of dumb, but it should work. So then it would be that plus. So that'll give us the name of the building, and then we will add in a bracket plus. And actually, I'm going to do that plus hex ID, or rather hex index dot toString plus a closing bracket. Okay. Next, for the updating tooltips, we're going to need to change it based on what we are in in terms of our interaction mode. And I actually want to toss that in here as well. So let's do plus an open parenthesis plus system.enum.getName type of interaction mode. And then we will also be passing in business.interaction mode. Okay, and then we'll also put in a closing parenthesis. There we go. So that's our tooltip title there. Our line will remain the same. And now we just need to do a switch statement and go through all of these and implement what we want the building hexes to say when we've got this. However, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode we will finish implementing the tooltips for the building hex. See you all then.